Hey guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. So the Row just unveiled its spring 2026 collection, and today we're gonna have a look at it. And I thought we'd talk about some of the major themes as always in the collection. There's some bags, but it's honestly more so for this collection. We're gonna talk about the fashion. One of the running threads that I noticed with this collection for spring 2026 was this embrace of these more so sporty, preppy codes, not in an overt nostalgic way, but I think reimagined through the brand's ultra minimal lens. You see in the baseball cap styled with these coats, the tailored separates, a relaxed gesture that I think adds this off-duty ease, looser proportions like tailored coats we've often seen. When paired with these ribbed socks and loafers, they just evoke to me this ease of classic American sportswear. When I look at some of these looks, I see tennis clubs, rowing teams, weekend prep school style. It's distilled into something that I think is quite luxurious. Sweaters draped across the shoulders and tied like scarves feel preppy, but also have that like ease that I think we think of when we think of the Row. The long coats with these longer tailored shorts that are a little bit closer to the body. Also, I think what the Row does is they will do like a male model and a female model wearing very similar looks. There's no overt masculinity or femininity, just more of this form, fabric, and how they would feel against the body. This overall sporty, preppy undercurrent feels very pulled back, but also feels quite now. I think it gives this collection a more of a youthful and active energy when balanced against the Row's usual softness but restraint. To me, it feels like the Row's version of a pared down, very collegiate style. Less about the logos, the colors, and more casual, easy, comfortable, right? Another theme with this collection was I think this use of these still life images, these quiet, contemplative images of flowers, glasses, I think Lalique, vintage Bauhaus era chairs, all photographed with the same care as their clothes. And I think this underscores the designer's interest in the relationship between fashion and environment. Every photograph feels like a composed painting or a personal interior. This idea of luxury being something that is very holistic. It's not just the appeal of clothing, it's also the kinds of spaces that it could be worn in. Within these series of images, we saw these still life photographs. It presents flowers and roses in bloom in like basket-like vases, or it makes me wonder, is this going to be part of their homewares line? Is this just a mood-setting piece? There are also these more beautiful, delicate arrangements of flowers blossoming. Again, I think if I were to guess, this is probably Lalique. I know the Row has referenced Lalique before, but it just shows to me the affinity the Row has to heritage craftsmanship and curated, refined objects that can last for decades, a century even. A lot of these compositions almost feel like a photographic homage to, if I think about Dutch still life painting, or, you know, even more like formal mid-century botanical studies. It makes me think we are probably going to see an expansion of homewares for the Row's spring 2026. Of course, this year we saw them expand into blankets, bedwear. We may see more objects like this. Another theme that I just noticed, and I think this is a constant with a lot of collections from the Row, but this theme of relaxed layering. Here we've got for look 3, this model, she's wearing this very soft, structured, yellow mustard cape style jacket with just the single visible button. Feels quite relaxed and gentle. And then for this next look here, we've got this oversized button-down black shirt, lightweight but voluminous, worn untucked with the soft drop in the shoulders. Also, these contrasting white pointed heels with the white socks really punctuate the look. And then she's wearing these sculptural earrings. They look like they could even be vintage. Next, we have this really beautiful dress, and I think it's just this perfect balance of minimalism and subtle deconstruction. The model's wearing this black dress, and then layered over top is this white ruched high neck top with this like soft gathered detailing, creates this really nice sculptural texture. And I think the layering intentionally feels a little bit more offbeat, with the neckline of the underlayer cutting diagonally across the chest, one sleeve just barely peeking out. And then we've got these elegant heels and stockings. Another defining theme in this collection was the use of these intimate styling details, those very small personal touches that just make a look feel a little bit more considered. Throughout the show, clothing is styled in a way that feels less like a formal runway. Of course, the artistic direction is not that at all. This is more of like a snapshot of somebody's everyday ritual of getting dressed. The first look in this whole collection is this very quite, I would say, cinematic image, half up twist held by this hair clip, again, very soft and gestural. You see the casual drape of sweaters across the shoulders, or maybe they're tied like scarves, or they're slipped off to one arm. The sleeves are pushed up, the shirts are left slightly untucked, softening these more so tailored looks. And again, the accessories also similarly very personal. Metallic hair clips holding back hair waves, a single brooch pinned to a knit, the baseball caps that make these looks feel a little bit more grounded. There's very small details that feel a little bit more instinctive. Also, someone who's featured quite heavily throughout this campaign is Julia Nobis. Here we've got her wearing this sweater tied together or knotted together with this brooch. But there's something about her hair here that just kind of reminds me of this era, the early 90s. Maybe it's just on my mind because I've been revisiting a lot of this Carolyn Bessette Kennedy era style and fashion, but something about like the way the hair is done, like swoops over her. It's not too done up. It's kind of ease that I feel like early 90s, thinking of brands like Calvin Klein to Jill Sander, predecessors of the Row, even just some of these preppy American sportswear looks just feel very much a subtle reference to that era. Another theme that we are seeing in this collection is monochromatic and quite tonal dressing. Many outfits play with different shades of one color and variations of texture. In contrast, if we're thinking about spring 2025, this season, we saw a lot more colors and patterns, plaids, reds. Not so much spring 2026. It's more about the shape, the drape, subtle differences in fabric weight are meant to add more to the depth here. I love this look 8 here. This central piece is this clean sand colored coat, and then just draped ever so casually over the shoulders is this thick knit sweater in this muted like oatmeal taupey color. We've got looks that are full on white, full on black, but again, it's a lot more focus on the drape. This look here, like look 13, maybe it's just I've been looking at some of these like 90s Calvin Klein images more so recently, but I don't know, I see something very like early 90s Calvin Klein, maybe even like a little bit late 80s. Probably even look to like Jill Sander or Donna Karan and other American sportswear designers from that era, but there's just something about this that reminds me of that period. Another point I wanted to bring up with this collection is this theme around portraiture and dressing for an occasion like this. Of course, we live in this era where we have our phones and on social media we take selfies or we can ask someone to take a picture of us. There's still people that get their portraits taken, but just not like as common as it used to be. But here we have a lot of these like close cropped frames, this neutral backdrops, the focus on like the collars, the hairpins, the necklines, the hats, the accessories that frame the face. These are pieces that are meant to celebrate the person behind these clothes and accessories. And a lot of these portraits really remind me of, if I think about photography from my grandma's era or my great grandmother's era, there is this feeling of something that is like a timeless artifact. But then it's also kind of contrasted, like when we look at this model, for instance, wearing this baseball cap, it feels a little bit more like now. But then we see this other model wearing this tailored black suit. The jacket feels quite clean and purposefully restrained, no accessories, no embellishments, but it's all about letting the cut, fabric, and the posture speak. For look 22, the model is dressed in this very fluid, is this like a satin or silk shirt dress or cord set. It feels quite relaxed, and I think the art direction and the styling of this is just quite beautiful. I think about some of like the more so intimate photography of that era in the 90s from a lot of the Rose spiritual predecessors, and it feels like also a bit of that. Also this rare moment of color here with wearing this very pale yellow knit sweater. The Row has done these kinds of like buttery pale yellows for spring. We'll see that again next year as well. The second last look, this final fashion look here with Julia Nobis. She's wearing this gray knitwear and then this other knitwear piece layered over top. The jewelry very subtle, very beautiful. But again, this theme of portraiture and just the overall art direction feels very different from the last collection. While the codes and many of the designs are very much the Row, I think there's something about like the art direction, the creative visuals, the photography, and the styling. Each season, the Row does such a phenomenal job at conveying their message. Another theme that I think is present throughout every collection from the row is we often see this theme around elevated knitwear. For many of these looks, knitwear is the foundation, sometimes layered, worn like a scarf. I think it brings this sense of softness, this intimacy, and these otherwise very tailored looks. And I also think, of course, another thing that we will see with the row every season is beautiful outerwear. Something about look 18, this coat, absolutely stunning. Scarf-like lapels, very clean lines, emphasize volume without weight. Also another great trench coat every season. The cut, shape, and proportion, I just love. Also, one of the rare moments of color is this mustard cape, or what looks like a cape. We also saw earlier that yellow knitwear piece, but yeah, not a whole lot of color this season. Now, when it came to handbags, it's really hard to see a lot of these bags, but we'll talk about it here. And for look 3, we've got a hint of this first bag. It's mostly cropped out though, but it looks like some kind of shopping tote in this like canvas or raffia, like tight woven raffia like material. Kind of hard to tell from here. We also have another woven bag. This looks like it could be like a woven leather, and this kind of pattern is very Bottega. This next look here, beautiful long t-shirt dress with this slit. In here we've got the model wearing this bag, and looks like it's a black raffia shoulder bag with a nice long strap. And I'll finish off by talking about my 5 favorite looks from this collection. I really enjoyed look number 2. It says preppy, but not in this very obvious, very like typical way we've been seeing preppy thing. But this to me feels like the Rose version of preppy. This is like a minimalist preppy, very the Row, and I think they did a really good job at expressing this. Look number 4 I also really enjoyed for the same kind of reason. I love this ultra layered look, the black ball cap, the double layered shorts. This silhouette of short has never really appealed to me, but something about it when put with black tights and kitten heels, I'm into it. Similar to look number 5 and 17. I'll also throw in here because I kind of have that same kind of look for the guys, for the girls, but I'm really liking the way they're doing these ultra light layers. I also really enjoy look 13. We've got 2 ways to wear, and I love both. I love this all white look, and something about these ribbed socks with the white kitten heels. Now, my fashion physics brain is wondering how this is done. Are they like tucked into the socks? Is there a drawstring where it's like bunched together? It's quite minimal. It's something that I think can be easily recreated. I like the statement earrings that just add a little bit more interest. Look 18, I always love a coat from the Row. If you're looking for that investment wardrobe piece that you will have for years and years, and when I say investment, I don't mean like financial investment, obviously, something that you can get a lot of wear out of that won't date. I almost feel like with the art direction, they're actually saying the opposite. And I also really love look 36. It's again, quite simple, quite minimal. The Row kept it very much the Row. I love, like, I know it's like a simple detail, like the styling of the brooch, the way the knitwear is gathered and you've got that brooch. I think it's just a nice, subtle detail. Again, it looks like it's something you could have borrowed from your grandmother. Has this very beautiful, like, floral, filigree type print. Are these diamonds? I don't know what kind of crystal stone these are, but I'm sure it'll be a fortune. I just love the way it's styled here, just with this white button-down shirt, this black column skirt, very simple, but I just think these minor styling details just adds a little bit more intrigue to these looks. Looking at this collection overall, this theme from another era, not limited to one time is a theme, although, you know, maybe it's just recently I've been looking at like the early 90s a lot more recently, but I also feel that here as well. But also the style of photography from another era, where people would get dressed in their best clothes and pose for a portrait. Fashion that looks like it could be from another era and live on. But I also think there is this theme of space and interiors. This idea of luxury is found in these more so like personal spaces and these personal moments. These are like very still life vignettes, and they have very intimate styling details, and every look is so thoughtfully composed, carefully arranged, like these beautiful floral studies that feel like Dutch still life paintings. These beautiful glass vessels placed just so. When looking at the clothing, these subtle choices like the knotted sweater with the single brooch, the folded cuff, these feel like deliberate still life compositions. And when I look at this, I see style as more of a personal ritual built from these considered details, like a still life painting or a beautiful interior.